So 23 years ago when I decided to be a teacher, it's because I loved ideas. What surprised me, however, is when I got in that classroom, I fell in love with the beautiful brains of my students. And so while the beauty of the ideas got me in the classroom, the beautiful brains of my students kept me there, and they keep me there, and it's so fun to watch them absorb and learn and create.
Utah kids belong to all of us, and we are all equally responsible for the education system in Utah.
I'm really excited about RISE because it's going to be another tool in our toolkit that will help us make data-driven decisions to improve outcomes for students. Because this isn't about me, and it isn't about you, it's about kids.
We've had several different contracts over the years. Most recently, we've had a contract with American Institutes of Research with the SAGE testing for grades 3 through 8. And that contract has expired, and the state, through proper purchasing procedures, has secured a new contract with Questar for the RISE testing.
And this gives us a fresh start. If this isn't tied to some national agenda, this isn't tied to anything, this is a new contract, a new company, a new opportunity.
Having read the information about RISE, I'm really super excited for RISE because I think it's going to inherently solve some of the concerns that I had.
I think the fear that teachers have sometimes is that this is to grade you, this is to be punitive, but when you step back and say, you know what, this is a tool. This is for your students to know what they're learning. This is for you to know what your students are learning. Use it. Use it as a roadmap. Use it as a way to celebrate both your students and your teaching. And don't be afraid of the results.
A teacher's performance in practice is much, much more than what is represented on the test scores at the end of the year. So if we have a principal in our school district that's pushing these test scores as the one and only indicator, the one thing that matters most for teachers, then I think that that warrants a correction, because that's not true. Now, I also don't want principals to just be, yeah, you know, it's no big deal, we don't care, just pretend like it didn't happen, because that's not where we want to be either, because that discredits the whole value that we get from the data.
Teachers are definitely the frontline people that are seeing it day to day, but as somebody who's removed out of the classroom, it would make it really tough without data to be able to know where to put the resources and also to see if it's making a difference.
Anything we can do to come up with valid data, so it's important that the tests are vetted, the tests measure the right metrics, the tests measure things that we're teaching, you know, so we're actually getting good valid data. But I think it's important at the district level also to help make sure we're putting the best tools in place with our administrators, our teachers, and for the students.
The true value of the assessment comes when the teachers can use the data to inform their practice. And so when a teacher grabs the report and says, here's where this kid was last year, so here's what this kid needs this year instructionally, then that can allow for some really important decisions that are going to benefit kids.
I love the idea of we've taken this data, we've analyzed it, we've identified trends, and now as a teacher, I don't have to go home and wonder what I'm doing the next day in class, because we do that. We go home and we overthink things, and we want things just to be the very best that they can be for our students. But when I have the data in front of me, it helps make that decision so much easier.
Having that kind of data over years, especially over time, that's what I really like, is that over time we're going to be able to get kind of a bigger picture of what's going on.
When you put a student through that kind of assessment, you want it to be as student-friendly as possible, and my understanding is that RISE will definitely be more student-friendly.
I'm really excited that the multi-stage adaptive format will allow students to go backward and forward. It'll allow them to revise within a stage.
And the reporting is much easier for teachers to read and parents to read and children to read, because they really do pay attention to their scores.
The more we can give students information and make them aware, I think the more they'll buy into the tests and the more meaningful it becomes to them.
As a teacher, once you experience the success of that, I've really taught this standard well, I've used my data to readjust my instruction or to reteach what needs to be retaught, and then I see the success, and then it prepares my students for what's coming next. That's all they need to get hooked.
And so I think assessments, if they're used properly, it relieves some of the burden off of me, and it gives them the ownership and the responsibility to be as good as they want to choose to be.
When kids increase in proficiency, whether it's writing or reading or just their ability to analyze, they feel good about themselves. And I think as a teacher, when they feel successful, it feels so good as a teacher. And I love that most.